Hey everybody, this is Mrs. Henry. Just wanted to walk one of my classes through the Transformation Study Guide. So if anybody else is on here, that's great. The test is going to be next Tuesday, and the test review is due for all students on Monday. All right, so with the Transformations Study Guide, there's lots of questions here. We are going to skip a few of them. I want to make sure that, like I said, I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the questions to make sure that you're doing okay. The first thing that we're going to look at is make sure that we know what corresponding means. Okay, so corresponding sides in the pre-image and the image are congruent. And we also know, let's make sure that we also know what congruent means. Congruent means that it is the same shape and size or equal measure. So the first thing that you need to do is that you need to reflect over the x-axis. And none of these axes are labeled, so go ahead and label them. This is always x. This is always y. So you're going to reflect over the x-axis. Okay. And your new figure should be equal distance away from that. So I'm at least going to start with W. So W is 3 units above the line of reflection. W prime would be 1, 2, 3 units below the line of reflection. So let me go ahead and write that as W prime. So that's how you're getting that reflection there. It is going to ask you if the corresponding sides are congruent and if the reflection changes the orientation of the vertices. I'm going to go ahead and graph the rest of this one. So here would be Z prime and 1, 2, 3, Y prime and X prime. Okay, so when I put that in there, you are looking for the corresponding sides. So I'll change the color so you can see it a little better. Let's do it with green. Okay, so WZ on the pre-image is going to correspond with W prime Z prime on the image. Okay, and kind of goes around like that. So if you want to look at YZ in the pre-image, is going to correspond with Y prime, Z prime in the image. Okay, so answer that question there. Are they congruent or not? You can kind of look at it. Next one says true or false. The reflection, does it change the orientation? Remember, orientation is just a fancy word for the order of the vertices. So if you're looking at WXYZ, so if we start here and look at WXYZ, we're going in a clockwise fashion. And if you start with W down at the bottom, and you also go in the clockwise fashion, are your vertices in the same order. Okay? And number 2 is kind of like that too. It does talk about the quadrants. So I want to make sure that you're good with how they're numbered. You are expected to know that this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Okay, so go ahead and answer those questions where you are translating that figure 8 units to the left, 2 units up. Okay, and if you cannot remember what a translation is, probably need to go back and look at the video for 9-1. Okay, rotations, that has to do with the video 9-3. You can use a marker board for that. In fact, I'm going to leave instructions to make sure that you have access to those boards so you can use it when you're working on this tomorrow. Or you can just simply take this out of your binder and move your paper around. Okay? Remember that when you dilate, you are multiplying by the scale factor. So since that's greater than 1, you know that your image is going to be larger. Okay? So again, please take a few minutes to do those particular problems. Okay, you need access to graph paper on this part. So again, I'm going to leave instructions that you have access to graph paper or the marker boards. Okay, and if you do that, then it's going to make everything easier for you, but you need graph paper or a marker board to be able to work on that one. So this section right here, I'm going to ask that you guys skip it, okay? A lot of these are the algebraic representations. I know you know how to do most of those, but you are not required to have those memorized for 8th grade math. That is a 10th grade standard. So I don't want you to get stuck on it while I'm gone. Feel free to go back and look at it if you want to. There's no problem with doing that. It's just not a state standard. Okay, so let's see. Again, you're going to need the graphing boards with these or graph paper. Okay. And then you're just describing what happened with the transformations on there. Okay, so for number 18, you're going to have to plot the original point, the pre-image. You're going to have to plot the image, okay, or even, I'm sorry, I can't talk, or even sketch it. So if we were to sketch it out without using graph paper, -3, -7 would be down here somewhere, okay, and 7 comma -3, so I'm going to put, that would be J, 7 comma -3, okay, would be over here. So this would be J prime, okay? So it says how many degrees was it rotated? You have two options. You can say how many degrees it was rotated if you went clockwise, or how many degrees was it rotated if you went counterclockwise. Or you can answer both, it doesn't matter. So one or the other will suffice. So I guess you could just do this by sketching instead of graph paper. All right, if you were looking at 19, let's go ahead and do that one together. And again, just sketch out your 4-quadrant grid. Okay. If you had 12, 5 for point C, you know, we would just guess that 12 is down here, 5 is up here, so 12, 5 would be way over here. And this is just a guess. So that would be C. And -12, +5 would be on the opposite end. -12, +5 would be right here. So that would be C prime. All right, knowing that this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis, what was your line of reflection? What did you reflect that over? Did you reflect it over the x-axis or the y-axis? I'll let you decide that. Go ahead and take a moment to write that down. Okay, number 20, the point M is at 2, 4. Okay, and it was dilated to 9, 18. What was the scale factor? And what was the dilation, an enlargement or a reduction? So let's set it up. Remember, image over pre-image. Okay, so we did this on our homework when I was with you guys on Wednesday. So these are your pre-image points, and this is your image points. So if I'm looking at the x values, my image is 9, my pre-image is 2. If I look at the y values, my pre-image is 18. I'm sorry, my image is 18, my pre-image is 4. Those are going to be equivalent once you simplify those. So find out what your scale factor is in simplest form. Even if you put it in decimal form, that's fine. And then tell me if it's an enlargement or a reduction. I'm assuming you're writing that answer very quickly. Okay. Point Z was translated to Z prime. We have to describe the direction and the distance of the translation. Okay. So again, sketch it out. All right. Doesn't matter if you're doing it this way. It doesn't have to be perfect. -5, -6. So -5 would be here, -6 down here somewhere. So there's Z. Z prime would be -8. So -8 would be even further. +4. So we'll say -8. 1, 2, 3, 4. +4 would be Z prime. Okay? So you can kind of see what happened. Not with mathematical accuracy, but you can see to go from Z to Z prime, you had to go this direction, then this direction, okay? So how many points to the left did you go? How many points up did you go? All right, so that may require some graph paper, but at least you know, or you can do some adding and subtracting, but at least you know that you're going to the left and you're going up. So again, you have to detail how many points to the left you went and how many points up that you went. Pause the video so you can get that one done. Okay, 22, 23, 24. You are going to, part A, identify the transformation that occurred. Next, you're going to algebraically say the transformation that occurred. And then it says to write a similarity or a congruency statement. I am going to say we're not going to do that. Okay, again, 10th grade standard. And kind of iffy on part B. That is a 10th grade standard, but I think you can do it. But for A, you do need to identify the transformation that occurred. All right, so make sure that you remember what you need to look for. You need to look for the orientation of the figure. Okay, remember, if the orientation of the figure stays the same, you're probably dealing with a transformation. You also need to think of the orientation of the points. Okay, if they're not in order, you're dealing with a reflection. Okay, let's see what else you got going on here. All right, and look at the size. If the size is different size, then you're definitely dealing with a dilation. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make an executive decision here. Part A is required. You've got to tell me, and you've got to be specific. If it's a rotation, how many degrees did you rotate in which direction? If it is a reflection, what did you reflect over? If it's a dilation, how much bigger or how much smaller it is, meaning tell me the scale factor. If it's a translation, where did you go? How many to the left, how many to the right? But with the academic or algebraic representation, I'm going to ask you to just, try your best on those. I might give you some extra points. Okay? All right. You're kind of doing the same thing here. You're going to describe a sequence of transformations. You're going to identify the two transformations that occurred. So a sequence of transformations means there is at least two, and you guys are going to be limited to two, so you're not going to have any more than two. So if you look at something and say, oh, I could do that in three, that's not what we're looking for. We want to get there in two. And then it says write a similarity or congruency statement. No, we're not going to do that. Now, if you just choose to, that's fine. You're not going to get marked off for it. Again, 10th grade work, right? So you're looking at what two things got this pre-image to this image. What two things got the pre-image to the image? And what two things got this pre-image to this image? That's going to require a little bit of thinking. So again, you're only looking at part A. And, all right, so for 28 through 31, we are going to describe the transformation that occurred by using coordinates. Again, you may need to use graph paper or a graph board for this. Okay, so you can see, did a rotation take effect? Did a translation? Did a dilation? Whatever happened? So you'll need to sketch that out to be able to see it, even if you just sketch it with, like we did on some of the previous problems. That's going to take you a few minutes, but like I said earlier, I've taken a lot of questions out, so not too bad for you. Okay. I love 32 through 35. You should be able to tell just by looking at the scale factor, the coefficient of x and the coefficient of y, whatever that number, that multiplier is. Are you dealing with an enlargement or a reduction? Okay, and just so you remember, If it's an enlargement, k is greater than 1. Okay, if it's a reduction, k is not less than 2, k is less than 1. Okay, that should only take you about 30 seconds to answer all 4 of those. If you have to use your calculator to, I don't know, divide these fractions out to make sure it's a decimal that's less than 1 or greater than 1, by all means do so. All right, don't know if you guys hear my kitty cat in the background. All right, we also did this on Wednesdays, I'm sorry, on the video that you guys did yesterday. You were trying to figure out if things are the same or changed, okay? So remember, orientation is talking about the order of what the shape looks like and the vertices. Again, that should not take you very long at all, okay? I hope that helps. If you get into a bind, please send me an email over the weekend with the question and I can help you out. But please make sure that you are arriving at school Monday with this completed. You're not going to have enough time in AC to do this because there's a lot of it. Make sure you're using your time wisely in class. Again, I think that you're not going to have much problems with this. I kind of took out the questions that you would have problems with. And I'm looking back through here to see if there's any issues. I don't see any. Okay, good luck to you guys. Please be good. And I will see you on Monday.